I promised Jennifer Lawrence and Cheryl Hines, and Jennifer Lawrence and Cheryl Hines, you shall have. There's a flurry of, I guess maybe because Election Day is tomorrow, celebrity comments on politics coming out at the moment. Maybe we can put this one up on the screen. This one is interesting. This is Nicki Minaj. You see Nicki Minaj reacting to Donald Trump, commenting that, actually threatening aid to Nigeria over the slaughtering of Christians. Nicki Minaj seriously weighed in and said, reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. She posted this on X. We live in a country where we can freely worship God. Amen, Nikki. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. We don't have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect each other. Numerous countries all around the world are being affected by this horror, and it's dangerous to pretend we didn't notice. Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Let's remember to lift them up in prayer. And let us all lift up Nicki Minaj in prayer that she might use her platform for the glory of God, because she's got a big platform. And boy, I'll just say controversial, but her support, obviously, on her support for the Christians in Nigeria, I'm like just genuinely appreciative of. I'm sure many people are genuinely appreciative. I doubt that that is political in any way whatsoever. I think everybody can be appreciative of that. So on the other hand, Cheryl Hines was on Tucker Carlson's show to talk about her new book. Obviously, she's been making the rounds, and she had this to say about what it was like in Hollywood, what it was like on the campaign trail, being the wife of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We can roll this.
I think I was expecting somebody who didn't listen to other people.
This is Trump. This is her being surprised by Trump.
Wouldn't be interested in other people. And that's not who I met. I met somebody who was very interested in other people. Really wanted to hear what somebody else had to say. I think that was very surprising to me.
Did you call back to LA and say, hey guys, he's actually cool?
Good news, guys.
Yeah, that's sort of the gap between, the narrative and the reality that can be very radicalizing for people, and not radicalizing always in a bad direction, but just sort of radicalizing toward the correct direction of low institutional trust, which again, you should have low institutional trust. It's not a sign of a healthy society that your institutions can't be trusted, but our institutions can't be trusted right now. And you can get sort of radicalized in that direction by having these expectations versus reality moments, as Brittany Xavier was talking about earlier in the show. And I thought that moment from Cheryl was super interesting, especially because she also talked about politics kind of getting in the way of her relationship with the great Larry David over the course of these series of interviews that she gave in the last week. But Jennifer Lawrence, I'm just tying these all together because I think they're all connected. I'll tell you why in a moment. Actually, you're probably going to figure out why as soon as I start reading from Jennifer Lawrence in Variety today. She says, quote, I don't really know if I should in regards to speaking out on Trump and U.S. politics to the press. She says, quote, the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? I feel like I was running around with like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. So then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart. We are so divided, she told the New York Times, according to Variety. She said, quote, I think I'm in a complicated recalibration. Wow, recalibration. Because I'm also an artist. With this temperature and the way things can turn out, I don't want to start turning people off my films and to art that could change consciousness or change the world because they don't like my political opinions. I want to protect my craft so that you can still get lost in what I'm doing. And if I can't say something that's going to speak to some kind of peace or lowering the temperature as some sort of solution, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to make the problem worse. I try to express my politics through my work. A lot of movies coming out from my production company are expressions of the political landscape, and that's how I feel like I can be helpful. Okay, so I read that entire quote to the Times at length from that Variety excerpt because I think it is being interpreted as Jennifer Lawrence embracing neutrality. Jennifer Lawrence saying, I am becoming a fence sitter. But actually what she said there was much much more interesting. She said she is recalibrating because she is an artist. And she doesn't want to start turning people off films and art that could change consciousness or change the world because they don't like her political opinion. She says she tries to express her politics through her work. But what that is actually saying, that is actually a rejection of the political mentality that an artist like Jennifer Lawrence embraced during Trump 1.0 and the interim period, although she was a bit more quiet recently. The neutral thing to do would just be to say, I'm staying out of it. But what she did was actively reject that there is value in her weighing in on the basis of her art being much more valuable as a consciousness changer or a consciousness influencer, right? Meaning that art is deeper than good art, is deeper than partisan politics. I think that's what she's saying here. She's rejecting the idea that actors can shape electoral outcomes with political statements, but saying they could perhaps affect the climate more broadly, the culture more broadly with art. And you are hurting your own art's ability to do that by kind of interfering with the way the audience sees what you're up to. Now, if Jennifer Lawrence had said this in 2020, 2021, that would genuinely be brave. Now, I suspect a statement like this will be greeted in Hollywood as wise and mature and a path forward. Again, this is the Hollywood, and I really mean this, the post-Top Gun 2 Hollywood, where they learned how to genuinely they relearned how to chase audiences and realized they'd made some mistakes. So this Jennifer Lawrence is reacting to the world that Cheryl Hines has shaped, right? The world where you have someone like Cheryl Hines who goes on The View and speaks to that level of institutional distress, pops the bubble in front of them in a way where the film from the bubble is all that soap is getting on their heads. You can just see it happening in real time because they're caught completely off guard and unprepared for a real conversation, not a talking points conversation. And this is the world that Jennifer Lawrence and Nicki Minaj and others are now stepping into, where it's safe to be less partisan and more thoughtful. It's not super brave right now because it's obvious that the climate has changed. It's obvious that the money in Hollywood Hollywood is still predominantly liberal, celebrities liberal, the finance arms liberal, but also understanding that the Trump administration needs to be wooed, can be wooed. If you work with the Trump administration, they will work back with you, is a lesson that Silicon Valley obviously learned, and in some ways good and bad, but it's not exactly brave. It's obviously not brave for Jennifer Lawrence after all these years to come out and say this. But I do think it's pretty obviously a reflection, a barometer, if you will, of the changing temperature in Hollywood from Trump 1.0 resistance and even the same kind of flavor of boomer resistance that we saw at the No Kings protests, where they're out there with the Cheeto Jesus posters and the inflatable Donald Trumps that are so unfunny and weird. And they're doing this folk routine, acting like they're all Woody Guthrie in front of the strip mall. That is not, or nobody's pretending anymore, or nobody's buying that that's hip and trendy and going to absolutely take down Donald Trump anymore. And so this is where you're kind of entering the new chapter. Maybe it's slightly better. I don't know. I mean, there's some things right now in culture and media that make me optimistic in ways I never expected to. The rise of Substack is a good example. Changes at YouTube, good example. Changes on X, not all of which are great, but some of which are. Just some of these things, I mean, seeing what competition via Substack and new media on podcasts and YouTube has done to the old media is fascinating. Too early to call what's going to happen, but I've never felt optimistic that there was a course correction happening. Our media is not going to get back to a perfect place. Again, it's at a record low level of trust, according to Gallup's Trust in Mass Media polling that just came out this month. Well, actually last month, October. So I'm not saying that it's all going to be great and wonderful again. But I think the competition is actually making us better, like slightly better, maybe pushing us to a better place where people can choose what to trust. They can choose what to believe. They can choose what to watch or tune out. All of those, I don't know. Things feel really heavy right now. We were just talking about that. Politics is divisive and the news can be depressing. The news is depressing, I'll just say that. It often feels like we as a society have more pulling us apart than bringing us together. But here's something simple that unites us: shopping small. When you choose to buy from a small business, you are not just getting a product, you're helping someone's dream grow and you're investing in values we all share: honesty, craftsmanship, and community. That's what A Warehouse is all about. They've teamed up with nearly 100 small business makers across the US to bring you handmade goods filled with heart and creativity, uniting people of all backgrounds in this singular mission. Check out the website. It really is cool. Head on over there. So let's choose connections over division and show small businesses the support they deserve. Visit awarehouseshop.com and use code PARTY for 15% off your first order. That's awarehouseshop.com, code PARTY.